how you show up with your health is a reflection of how you show up in all areas of your life. Third action step is we need to be intentional with your family habit. If you're married, talk with your spouse and figure out how you can start implementing one of the things that Chris talked about, or something else that came to your mind while we were talking about that in your life, whether it's a regular weekly date night with your wife, or even if you're not doing any date nights, twice a month. You start with something simple and start implementing. Welcome to the Superhuman Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Dr. Jerem Ibsen, Dr. J, and this is our part 2. We are reviewing our Chris Smith podcast. And if you are new to our format, this part 2 is where we review and we put together action steps. So hopefully you've already listened to Chris's interview. He provided some great content, some great information. There's some key highlights we're going to cover. And more importantly, we're going to help you to implement that into your life so that you can start taking advantage of this and really, truly become superhuman. So Chris's interview is great. I've known Chris a long time. He's an amazing guy, amazing entrepreneur. And I love that every time I talk to him, I feel like there's just so much potential and there's not, and so much possibility existing, which is why I love how he changed his business name to Possibility Co. Because possibility always exists and we are limitless. We talked about that on that podcast interview you just listened to. Those limits are self-created. And I was just at a mastermind event and they were talking about these limits and it definitely applies here. But so many times we put ourselves in a box and that box is these limits that we create for ourselves. You know, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or this or that, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not healthy enough, or all these things that limit us. And we put these limits on us and we live in this box. And so I love how Chris talked about how the possibility to get out of this box, and really those limits are only there because of what we put there. So us as entrepreneurs, we must be focused on expanding the vision of what's possible to achieve growth, because that's what our job is as an entrepreneur. We're there to create. And we talked about that in that podcast. So that was, of course, the number one key point. And I love how he shares that. And I love that's Chris's message. Number 2, we talked a lot about how health is a catalyst, and it is so true. And I see this with so many entrepreneurs that health being the catalyst, because the more you take care of yourself, the more that you have to show up and give to other people, whether it's your business or whether it's your wife or your kids or your friends or your hobbies. That health is a driving force in so much that creates success, and which is why it's a fundamental principle there. So we got to make sure that, and those simple actions that you take, they might seem simple, to just going to the gym or just eating right or making your protein shake in the morning, whatever it is that fits in those small actions. They generate energy, they generate momentum, they generate resilience and higher performance over time. So that's super, super key. And then key point number 3 is we talked a lot about marriage and being intentional with your marriage and being intentional with your family. As I talk to more and more entrepreneurs, I've worked with many that have built huge businesses with 9-figure businesses, and they're doing amazing things. But yet they're not feeling satisfied. They're not feeling healthy and happy, especially when it comes to some of the most important things like their marriage or their relationship with their children. And so having clear intentions, I love how Chris talks about this in that podcast that you just listened to. But because if you don't have the clear intentions, if you're not the one that's creating that strong marriage or creating that strong parent relationship with your kids, those outside influences are going to come in and they're going to have a big negative impact on those relationships. So especially in marriage, you want to make sure that you have set aside time. And, if it's a high priority for you, you need to be investing in that high priority with your time, with your finances, with your efforts. So weekly date nights, family meals, regular check-ins to help build connection, and definitely getting that family all in alignment with what that vision is that you have is the key points. And Chris shared a lot about that. And we even talked about how we're going to have his wife come on as a guest eventually too, because she runs the business too. That's really specifically designed to help family build that intentional structure in there. And then the 4th key point that we talked about during Chris's interview is we talked about identity over business and who you are. And this is one of the key points that I think is so important for so many entrepreneurs, is that a lot of times entrepreneurs get stuck thinking that they are their business. But really, you are a superhuman entrepreneur, and you have a business, and a business is a way that you establish value out in the world. And so you need to make sure you're not commoditizing that you are building yourself, and that you can then share your value through yourself. And one of the ways to do that is through your business. And so and I'm a huge victim of this. I think we talked about this a little bit in the podcast, that your identity as a superhuman entrepreneur, as a man or a woman, is not the success of your business. It's not your revenue intake or revenue that you're bringing in, but it's the value that you're providing. And your job is to up-level yourself to be able to help you to continue that. So being able to dial in that clear personal identity is key. And that's one of our big major points that we're trying to get across here in Superhuman Entrepreneur, is that you are a superhuman and you are an entrepreneur, and your job is to create and to help and to provide value and to help people level up. And your job then is channel that through your business. And then the other big thing that I love thinking about that we talked about there at the end with Chris's interview is that the difference makes. So that ripple effect that we have, I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs and helping them to up-level themselves and up-level their businesses. And not only does that help them be more successful in their marriages and their families and financially, but also helps them to have more success by helping their businesses grow. So they hire more people. And so then those families that now have food on the table, and then those services that their employees provide to the world, that has bigger impact. So the ripple effects that those waves have, that what you can achieve as a superhuman entrepreneur is really exponential. And entrepreneurs are continually shaping the world to be a better and better place. Hey, Dr. J here. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and like the information that we're providing, be sure to subscribe and leave a review and like the podcast, because it helps us to be able to expand our reach to find other entrepreneurs. Your support helps us to reach other entrepreneurs and help us to help them truly unlock their superhuman potential and make the world a better place. So what are some action steps? What can you do about this? So you need to spend some time. We've talked a lot about reflection already in our part 2s of action steps. And really that's key. We want to help you know and to really realize what is possible, that there's no limits out there. And so you need to reflect on where have you consciously or most likely unconsciously created limits in your life. Even just, I was thinking about this the other night, my daughter is in 6th grade and she had a little bit of a trouble with 6th grade math. Her first time in junior high, and her teacher's being a little bit strict with her. And so she's starting to develop this unconscious thought that she's not good at math, when in reality, she is good at math. She can do all the problems really quickly. It's just trying to get what she knows out onto the paper to get the problems done is really what it is. And so you need to be able to identify those limits if you're going to be able to destroy them. So you can ask yourself, what would your life and business look like if you stepped into unlimited possibility? Right? If there's no limits, because there's really not, what would that look like? And then once you have thought about that, you've come up with some ideas, what you're thinking about what this could look like, I want you to take one bold action this week on what you can do to destroy one of those limits, because you need to spend time living outside that box. We talked about the box of the limitations that we put on ourselves. Do one bold action this week of living outside that box and see what type of impact that's going to have on your health, on your business, on you as a self, in your marriage, whatever different category that bold action takes place. All right. Number 2, you need to prioritize your health for performance. We talked about the little steps that add up over time to performing higher and showing up better. And so think of one area where you can improve, whether it's, knocking out your protein intake better, or getting your workout in, or hitting 10,000 steps walking, or turning off your cell phone an hour before bed and actually getting some relaxing time, or improving the quality of your sleep, improving nutrition. There's so many different areas and steps. And of course, we will continue to help you over time to learn more about what some of these are, but what some of them are. Maybe it's just, instead of, buying that Diet Coke at the gas station, maybe get some water or something super simple like that. But there are some definitely steps in there that you can take. So, because you need to remember, because how you show up with your health is a reflection of how you show up in all areas of your life. And then third action step is we need to be intentional with your family habits. So I want to I want you to, if you're married, talk with your spouse and figure out how you can start implementing one of the things that Chris talked about, or something else that came to your mind while we're talking about that in your life, whether it's a regular weekly date night with your wife, or even if you're not doing any date nights, twice a month, you start with something simple and start implementing. Or if it's, finding time to spend one-on-one times with each of your kids, or having family meals together, or at least once a week. I know the life is super crazy, super busy. My kids are getting into super busy times, but we make it, really, it's a big emphasis in our home to have family meal time together. And that's really, really big. And then start having a conversation with your significant other about what you want your family mission, vision, and values to look like. Because it's not something that you're just going to show up and be like, "Hey, Dad has an idea. This is what we're all going to do." No, it needs to be it needs to be you and your spouse need to talk about this, and then bring your kids in too over time and decide what you guys want to create. What does your family want to be known for? What does an Ibsen want to be known for? What does a Smith want to be known for? And then start that discussion. And then as you start to build on that, then you can start to really solidify those key points that are going to be so important. And then as far on the business side of things, you can continue to work and clarify what it is that's unique for you. We want to make sure that you don't just become a commodity, that you can really stand out. Being a superhuman entrepreneur, your value is expressed through your business, and a lot of how you impact the world is there. And so how are you different? How do you do something different? Even if there's 10 different garage door companies in your little small town, how are you different? How is your garage door company different? Or if you're a roofing company, how is your roofing company different than all the other hundreds of roofing companies that are out there? Because you can be the best, even though there's hundreds of other roofing companies, you can still be the best roofing company for that person that you're sitting in front of. How are you going to be able to express that and refine that message? These, of course, are all things to think about, and we're going to be building on these over time. But then I want you to also then leverage that ripple effect we talked about. What is the difference that your difference makes? So this is our action point number 5. And really think about this. If you're a smaller entrepreneur and have just 1 or 2 employees, or even solopreneur, or if you have a big business where you have 800 employees, 1,000 employees. I work with entrepreneurs on all those scales, depending on where they're at. I want you to recognize the difference that you're making. If not just in those families that you help, or those people that you're serving with your services that you're providing, but then also, what about the employees that are working for you, or your team members? How are you impacting their lives? How are you helping them to improve? Because the more you invest into them, also then the more that they're going to be able to reward you and help your business to grow as well. So focus on the difference that your difference makes. Inspire your team, inspire your clients, inspire your customers, to help extend that impact further. So there's quite a few action steps. There are a lot of things that we talked through. If you want to actually come back and return and report, and you haven't already, go to superhumanentrepreneur.com and join our community. Because for each of these episodes, each of these action steps episodes, we have handouts, we have a discussion board, we have a way where you can share what you've learned, share your insights, share your successes, share your questions, and get feedback and get support from other members of our Superhuman Entrepreneur community. Because we are all here to help improve the world, make the world a better place. Entrepreneurs are the modern day superheroes. And so join our Superhuman Entrepreneur community and film action steps. So if any of these things that Chris talked about really resonated with you and you've started implementing that, come share that success on the forum board, so we can help others. Because as we do that, maybe what you share might help someone else too, and continue to have a bigger and bigger ripple effect. If you're enjoying the podcast, help us reach more entrepreneurs like you by leaving a review. As a thank you, everyone who leaves a 5-star review will be entered into a drawing for some exciting prizes. We are here to help you more than just listen. Head over to superhumanentrepreneur.com, click on community, and join a powerful network of entrepreneurs that are striving to be their best. Each episode includes action steps, resources, and accountability to help you to implement these ideas and start seeing results.